bit more about Black American culture. So, when slavery was existing in the United States, marriage was not permitted between women and men that were enslaved. These were some of the many codes and laws that prohibited Black Americans that were enslaved to be able to establish families. Until 1864 and 1865, with the emancipation of slavery, it was the first time that Black Americans were able to legally enter into a marriage union, and many did after the ending of slavery. Confederacy during those times, prior to the emancipation of slavery, made sure to enforce the division of family. These were cruel times, these were harsh times. However, love still existed. And with that love, men and women still wanted to show their union to the people that they loved. So they also entered into celebrations. After long days of work, grueling tasks, back-breaking, never-ending work, many worked in the cotton fields and other people worked in other areas of the plantation. They still wanted to get married. Due to this restrictive rights of Black Americans that were enslaved in the United States, there was a specific law that banned legal marriage to occur between slaves. They practiced many traditions that they brought from Africa, and one of the domestic items that was used in African spiritualism was the broom. Also, the broom has been tied to Romanian, European culture that was brought over to the Americas. And some also believe that European influence also incorporated into the jumping of the broom. Jumping of the broom. JUMPN, JUMPN, is a colloquialism. Also, Ebonics. It was a new form of language that many Black American slaves formed after being taken from their own homelands. They had to reformulate a new language to better understand the Europeans and white Americans they worked for, and also communication between each other with all of the tribes combined.
Work hard. I get up at 4 o'clock and get my breakfast done. Just at dawn of day, I go to the field and we pick cotton.
Mr. and Mrs. Haywood Jenkins of Sharkey County, Mississippi have, between them, picked cotton for over a century.
My boss man came along. He says, Mary Jane? I said, sir. I say, when you wash? I said, I washed last night. He said, I don't want you to do that no more. That's my agent, you know. He says, every Friday morning or Friday evening, you wash. And let all the children stay there with you until you get through. When you get through, then y'all can go back to the field.
So they're measured out to be more than likely either grandchildren of slaves or great-grandchildren of slaves, and more than likely their grandchildren. And it's amazing on how our people were still able to maintain a family unit after all of those tragedies.
To this day, it's a ritual rooted in pain, perseverance, and the power of claiming love, even when it wasn't legally allowed. The tradition dates back to the enslavement of the first Africans in America. At a time when Black men and women were forbidden from legally marrying, enslaved people found their own sacred ways to honor love and commitment. Jumping the broom became a symbolic act. The tradition is literally jumping over the broom at the end of the ceremony to signify entering into a new life together, stepping over into commitment, unity, and chosen family, even when the law didn't see them as fully human. The broom itself, a household item representing sweeping away the past, the pain, the oppression, the limitations, and clearing a path toward a shared future. The broom itself, a household item represented sweeping away the past, the pain, the oppression, the limitations, and clearing a path toward a shared future.
And although those voices of the former enslaved interviews didn't mention anything about marriage, I just wanted to input in authentic voices of real emancipated slaves to just connect to all of this, from where we come from and who we are as a people and where we're going. Marriage was something that was a gift of God. And many, if you look in the census and go back into many of the records within the United States, in the first 4 years after freedom, many Black American couples that jumped the broom on plantations actually went to courthouses and actually got certified as real married American couples. Some of the reasons that they list on the urgency of newly freed slaves that were experiencing their own autonomy for the first time ever in almost 400 years, some of those reasons is because of a recognition of their own freedom, legitimizing their family unions. Also, this was a way to start a paper trail. So after slavery, many reunions started to occur from people that had been sold away from family members, moving from one plantation to another. And this was a way to start a paper trail, along with the first U.S. Census of 1870 of newly freed slaves. Now we've progressed so much that we now have the autonomy to be able to marry whomever we want. And many interracial couples share the practice of jumping the broom now, showing homage to our ancestors and creating new traditions. The one thing I do want to include is that Black Americans have always gotten married. Black Americans have always valued the sacredness of having a union and creating a family. Only until recently has there been a decline in Black marriage. But that's something that we have to get back to. Unions between married couples create stronger households. It creates the protection of cultures, and it also helps to establish a path for your children and their children. Another tradition that took place within the Black American culture, especially in the 19th century, was the Tom Thumb wedding. It was a replication of an actual actor who was a little person that had a wedding, and it all incorporated just little people who were both groomsmen and bridesmaids. And this was a celebration that we took on within the Black American culture within the church. It helped to raise funds for youth programs, and it also gave educational experience for children to experience what family and family structure and yes, like. There are still current FBA churches all over the United States that still practice the Tom Thumb wedding. The program is from this actual wedding that took place. Another tradition that occurs at the Black American weddings, FBA, are the HBCU Black Fraternity Stroll-Offs.
Tough.
Diamonds dancing on your neck, better tap in. Tap, tap, tap in. With a smile, we help each other, for we know there's no other. With fervent hearts we pray for you.
And another part of the Black American wedding experience is the electric slide.
There isn't a Black event, cookout, party, wedding, you name it, that doesn't involve the electric slide. And honestly, if you're rolling up to a Black event and this song isn't on the playlist, then what's really going on?
And that's on period. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the crossing of the sticks. Now, this is also a tradition that came about during times of slavery, and it's just one more facet to the Black American experience in weddings that we have to look at. So when the slave couple or Black Americans that were also freed from slavery, that kept the practice, they crossed the sticks as a representation of a stronger union together. And these are just a few other pictures. These are just a few more traditions: tying the knot, and also partaking of the 4 elements. And then there's one last one that it's not really common, but a lot of people that migrated from like the Mississippi Delta, that traveled all the way up and migrated into Chicago and like Michigan, Detroit, some of them did practice this Old West African tradition, which a lot of Africans still practice today, and that is pinning money on the bride and the groom. Well, there's that scene back in the day of soul food. If y'all can remember Vivica Fox, Nia Long, and Vanessa Williams, during the beginning of the movie, they were pinning money on Nia Long. And that is just a replication of what some families really just still did and still do to this day. So let me know what you think about these traditions. Also, to do some research on your own, you can always go to bridemagazine.com, and they have a listing of Black traditional wedding practices that we've done for centuries in this country. Please like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the comment section.